The bridge of the Talon's Eye hummed with quiet energy as Fleet Commander Zethrak studied the star map before him. His clawed fingers traced the glowing lines that marked the boundaries of known space. For 200 years, the Calrex Empire had expanded across the stars, conquering 17 systems and subjugating 12 different species. They were warriors, born and bred for domination. "Commander, we have reached the designated coordinates," his navigation officer reported. The young officer's scales gleamed under the blue lights of the bridge, marking him as a recent graduate from the War Academy. Zethrak nodded slowly. Before them lay a region of space that intelligence reports suggested was poorly defended. According to their scouts, a young species called humans had settled here. They had only been traveling between stars for 300 years, a mere blink of time compared to the ancient Calrex civilization. "Begin deep scans of the border region," Zethrak commanded. "I want to know every ship, every station, every defense platform they have." The sensors officer worked quickly, her displays filling with data. After several minutes, she looked up with confusion in her eyes. "Commander, the scans show minimal military presence. There are civilian colonies scattered across 6 systems, but very few warships. Their defensive network appears incomplete." Zethrak felt a surge of satisfaction. The humans were even weaker than expected. He had read the reports about other species encounters with various civilizations, and the pattern was always the same. Young species lacked the strength to defend themselves properly. They built colonies before they built fleets. They focused on exploration before they mastered warfare. "What about their technology level?" he asked. "Primitive by our standards, Commander. They still use conventional propulsion for most of their vessels. Their weapons appear to be based on simple kinetic and chemical reactions. No plasma cannons, no phase disruptors, no quantum torpedoes." Another officer laughed quietly. "They fight with bullets and missiles, like primitives throwing rocks?" Zethrak allowed himself a thin smile. "Every species starts somewhere. Unfortunately for them, they started in a galaxy where the strong devour the weak." As they moved closer to the border, an alert chimed across the bridge. The communications officer straightened in his seat. "Commander, we are receiving an automated transmission. It appears to be a warning beacon." "Play it," Zethrak ordered. The main screen flickered to life. A human male appeared, wearing a dark blue uniform with silver insignia on his collar. He had short brown hair and calm eyes that seemed to look directly at Zethrak, despite being a recording. "This is Commander Kyle Bennett of the Human Defense Network," the man said. His voice was steady and carried no hint of fear or aggression. "You are approaching the boundary of human-controlled space. This message is being broadcast in 47 galactic languages to ensure understanding. Turn back now. No hostile vessels are permitted to cross this line. Any ship that enters human space with weapons armed will be considered an act of war. This is your only warning. Choose wisely." The message ended, and the screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge for a moment before one of the junior officers burst into laughter. "Did he just warn us? The humans warned the Calrex Empire?" Others joined in the laughter. Even Zethrak felt amusement pulling at the corners of his mouth. The audacity of these humans was almost charming in its foolishness. "Send a message to the War Council," Zethrak ordered. "Inform War Minister Velkoth that we have made contact with the human border defenses. Request permission to proceed with reconnaissance in force." The reply came faster than expected. Velkoth's face appeared on the screen, his scarred features twisted in a predatory grin. "Permission granted, Commander, but not just reconnaissance. I am sending you the Crimson Fang and 11 additional warships. You will cross into human space and destroy one of their colonies. Let them see what happens when they issue warnings to their superiors." Zethrak felt a moment of hesitation. Something about the situation bothered him, though he could not identify what. He accessed the intelligence archives and searched for information about previous encounters with humans. What he found was strange. Over the past decade, 6 different scout ships from various species had entered human space. None of them had ever returned. No wreckage was found, no distress signals were received. They simply vanished. "Commander," his second officer prompted, "should we wait for the fleet?" Zethrak closed the files. 6 ships over 10 years meant nothing. Space was dangerous. Ships disappeared for many reasons: mechanical failures, navigation errors, spatial anomalies. It was not evidence of military capability. "We wait," he decided. "When the fleet arrives, we will cross together and show these humans the price of arrogance." 3 days later, the Calrex battle fleet assembled at the border. 12 warships, each bristling with weapons and carrying crews trained in the art of conquest. The Crimson Fang, Velkoth's personal flagship, dominated the formation. It was twice the size of the other vessels and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Zethrak stood on his bridge, watching the fleet align itself. The target had been chosen: a mining colony on a planet the humans called Meridian 7. Population scans showed roughly 50,000 humans living there. It would be a simple demonstration of power. "All ships report ready, Commander," the communications officer announced. Zethrak took a deep breath. This was a moment of history. The Calrex Empire was expanding once more, and he would be remembered as the commander who brought the humans to heel. "All ships, proceed across the border," he commanded. "Formation Delta, weapons armed, shields at maximum. Destination, Meridian 7. The fleet moved forward as one, crossing the invisible line that marked human space. Zethrak watched his sensors carefully, expecting alarms and warnings as human defense forces scrambled to respond. But there was nothing. No ships appeared, no weapons locked onto them. The silence was absolute. "Scan for cloaked vessels," Zethrak ordered, feeling uneasy. "Negative, Commander. Space is clear for 20 light minutes in all directions." The fleet continued deeper into human territory. Hours passed. Still no response. The colony grew larger on their screens as they approached. "Perhaps they abandoned it when they detected us," one officer suggested. "Or perhaps," another said with a laugh, "they know they cannot stop us and have chosen to surrender without a fight." Zethrak said nothing. His unease grew with every passing minute. The humans had issued a warning. They had drawn a line in space. And now, when that line was crossed, they did nothing. It made no sense. Unless they wanted the Calrex to cross. Unless this was exactly what they had planned for. But that thought was absurd. What possible advantage could the humans gain by allowing an enemy fleet into their space? The answer, Zethrak would soon discover, was more terrible than he could imagine. The mining colony of Meridian 7 appeared on the view screens as a cluster of domed structures spread across a rocky planet's surface. Zethrak could see the industrial equipment, the residential zones, the power generators. It looked peaceful and vulnerable, just as expected. "Hail the colony," he ordered. "Let them know their time has come." A human woman appeared on the screen. She wore simple civilian clothes and had tired eyes that suggested long hours of work. "This is Colony Administrator Lisa Garrett. I'm asking you to please leave our space peacefully. You don't need to do this." "Your warnings were ignored," Zethrak replied. "Now you will learn the consequences. Evacuate your colony if you wish to save lives. You have 10 minutes. Lisa shook her head slowly. "I've already called for help. Our defense forces are coming. Please just turn around and go home. Nobody needs to die today." 10 minutes, Zethrak repeated, and closed the channel. His weapons officer checked the targeting systems. "All batteries locked on primary structures, Commander. Ready to fire on your order." Zethrak watched the countdown timer. 9 minutes. 8 minutes. He expected panic from the colony, people running to evacuation ships, desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, the colony seemed calm. People continued their daily routines as if a fleet of warships wasn't hovering above them. 5 minutes remaining. "Commander!" the sensors officer shouted. "I'm detecting multiple contacts. 12 ships just appeared at the edge of our sensor range." "Finally," Zethrak muttered. "Battle formation. All ships prepare for combat." The human ships approached at steady speed. As they came closer, Zethrak studied them carefully. They were smaller than Calrex warships, sleeker in design. Their hulls were dark gray, almost invisible against the black of space except for the running lights that marked their positions. A communication request came through. Zethrak accepted it. A human man in a military uniform appeared on screen. He looked young, perhaps 30 Earth years, with short blonde hair and serious blue eyes. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Network ship Vigilance. I'm going to ask you one more time to withdraw from this system." "You have 12 ships," Zethrak said. "We have 12 ships. But our vessels are larger, more powerful, and crewed by warriors with 2 centuries of combat experience. Leave now, human, or we will destroy you along with your colony." Jake's expression didn't change. "I tried. Remember that." He closed the channel. "All ships, open fire!" Zethrak commanded. The Calrex fleet unleashed a devastating barrage. Plasma bolts bright enough to blind unprotected eyes streaked across space. Missiles by the dozens launched from every ship, their engines burning white-hot as they accelerated toward the human vessels. Zethrak watched his screens, expecting to see human ships explode or scatter in panic. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships moved. Not the slow, predictable movements of normal vessels, but lightning-fast reactions that shouldn't be possible. One moment they were in the path of weapons fire, the next moment they were somewhere else entirely. They dodged plasma bolts that traveled at a significant fraction of light speed. They twisted and turned through missile swarms with movements that would kill any biological crew from the acceleration forces. "How are they doing that?" the navigation officer gasped. Zethrak understood. Computer-assisted navigation. They let machines control their ships. It was a technology most species had abandoned thousands of years ago after ancient wars with artificial intelligence had nearly destroyed civilizations. The Calrex considered it dishonorable to let machines fight their battles, but the humans apparently had no such concerns. "Evasive maneuvers," Zethrak ordered. "All ships scatter formation!" The human ships stopped dodging and began their counterattack, but they didn't use energy weapons or smart missiles. Instead, they fired what looked like simple metal projectiles. The Calrex shields, designed to deflect and absorb energy weapons, did absolutely nothing against solid matter traveling at incredible speeds. The first projectile hit one of the Calrex destroyers amidships. The kinetic energy of the impact tore through the hull like paper, continuing through deck after deck before exploding out the other side in a spray of debris and atmosphere. "Shields aren't stopping them," someone shouted across the fleet communication channel. Another ship died, then another. The human projectiles were simple tungsten rods, nothing more than heavy metal accelerated to a fraction of light speed. Physics did the rest. Every impact released energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. "Return fire! Target their engines!" Zethrak commanded, trying to keep his voice steady. But the human ships were too fast, too agile. Every time the Calrex weapons locked on, the targets were already moving. Meanwhile, the human guns never seemed to miss. 3 Calrex ships were now disabled or destroyed, their crews either dead or dying in the cold vacuum of space. "All ships retreat!" Velkoth's voice came over the command channel from the Crimson Fang. "Fall back to the border!" The remaining 9 Calrex vessels turned and accelerated away from the colony. Zethrak felt shame burning in his chest. The mighty Calrex Empire, fleeing from humans. But the retreat became worse. The human ships pursued not to destroy, but to herd. Every time a Calrex ship tried to break away toward the border, human vessels would appear in their path, firing warning shots that came close enough to feel but didn't hit. "They're driving us," Zethrak realized. "They're not letting us choose our path." A human voice came over the open channel. It was a woman this time, calm and professional. "This is Captain Amy Rodriguez of the Sentinel. You wanted to see human space. Now you will. Keep moving in the direction we're guiding you. Any ship that breaks formation will be destroyed." For hours, the Calrex fleet was pushed deeper into human territory, away from the border and away from any hope of quick escape. Their communications with their home empire were being jammed somehow. They couldn't call for help. They couldn't report what was happening. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the human ships allowed them to slow down. Zethrak looked at his star charts and felt his blood run cold. They were in the heart of human space now, surrounded by multiple populated systems. "Commander," his sensors officer said quietly, "I'm detecting massive structures ahead. Defense platforms, dozens of them." The screens showed what awaited them. Human defense stations, each one larger than a Calrex battleship, orbited a green and blue planet. But that wasn't what made Zethrak's hands tremble. Floating in designated zones around the planet were hundreds of wrecked ships. Destroyed vessels from dozens of different species, carefully preserved and displayed like trophies. He recognized some of the designs: Vraxian raiders, Korthan slavers, Nethic pirates. Species that had mysteriously vanished over the years while operating in this region of space. Now he knew where they had gone. Now he understood why no ship ever returned from human space. A human controller's voice came through on all channels, cold and formal. "Welcome to the memorial. Every species that tried to harm human civilians is remembered here. You are the newest addition to our collection. Please stand by for further instructions." Zethrak looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, the same fear he felt in his own heart. They had thought they were hunters. They had believed they were predators entering a territory full of prey. They had been wrong. Terribly, fatally wrong. The humans weren't prey. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that had learned to turn their defensive position into a weapon, to make their space into a trap that drew in the overconfident and the aggressive. And the Calrex Empire had walked right into it. The Calrex fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by human defense platforms and the haunting display of destroyed ships. Zethrak stared at the wreckage floating around them, each piece telling a story of another species that had made the same mistake his people just made. A communication request came through. Zethrak accepted it, knowing he had little choice. A human woman appeared on the screen. She wore a naval uniform with commander insignia and had red hair tied back in a practical style. Her green eyes were sharp and intelligent. "I'm Commander Kate Sullivan of Defense Station Bastion 4. I've been authorized to speak with you." "Are you here to gloat over your victory?" Zethrak asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "No," Kate said simply. "I'm here to make sure you understand what happened and why. You need to carry this knowledge back to your people, assuming we let you go." "Then explain," Zethrak said. "How did primitives with simple weapons defeat the Calrex Empire?" Kate's expression didn't change. "First, we're not primitives. We're different. And second, you weren't defeated by weapons. You were defeated by strategy and preparation." She gestured to something off-screen. "Let me show you something." The screen changed to show footage from cameras mounted on human ships. Zethrak watched recordings of previous battles. He saw Vraxian raider ships attacking a human freighter. their crews laughing as they prepared to board and take slaves. Then human warships appeared and destroyed every raider vessel in less than 5 minutes. Another recording showed Korthan military ships bombarding a small human research station. The humans evacuated everyone safely, then returned with overwhelming force. Not a single Korthan ship survived. "Do you see the pattern?" Kate asked, as the screen returned to her face. "Every species in that graveyard out there made the same choice. They decided human lives were cheap. They decided we were easy targets. They were all wrong." "But why display the wrecks?" Zethrak asked. "Why create this memorial?" "Because we remember," Kate said quietly. "It's part of who we are as a species. We don't seek war. We don't expand aggressively into other territories. We don't conquer planets or enslave populations, but we never forget those who try to harm our people. Every ship out there represents beings who thought human suffering didn't matter. We made sure they learned differently." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Let me tell you about humanity, Commander. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the fastest or the smartest. Our technology isn't the most advanced. But we have 2 advantages that make us dangerous." "What advantages?" Zethrak asked, despite himself. "First, we adapt. Every battle teaches us something. Every enemy shows us new tactics we can learn and counter. We studied the Vraxians and learned how to defeat their stealth technology. We fought the Korthans and discovered how to break their shield harmonics. Every species that attacks us makes us stronger." She brought up technical displays showing weapon designs, shield frequencies, tactical doctrines from dozens of different species. "We've been collecting this information for over a century. Before we even revealed ourselves to the galaxy, we sent stealth probes everywhere. We watched. We learned. We prepared." "And the second advantage?" Zethrak asked. "Memory and determination. When someone hurts humans, we don't forget. We don't forgive. And we make absolutely certain it never happens again. That's why no ship returns from human space once they commit hostile acts. We can't let intelligence about our capabilities spread. We can't allow our enemies to prepare for us. So we make sure every hostile force that enters our territory stays here." The implications made Zethrak's blood run cold. "You let us cross the border. You let us think we were invading. It was a trap from the beginning." "Yes," Kate confirmed without apology. "Your scout ship visited our border weeks ago. We detected it easily. We knew you were gathering intelligence, knew you were planning something, so we made it easy for you. We pulled back our patrol ships. We made our colonies look vulnerable. We waited for you to take the bait." "But why? Why not just destroy us at the border?" Kate's expression softened slightly. "Because we wanted you to see this, to understand what you were getting into. If we destroyed you at the border, your empire would just send more ships. They'd think it was bad luck or a close fight. But now you've seen what happens in human space. You've seen the graveyard. You've learned that our weapons work and your defenses don't. Most importantly, you've learned that we've been preparing for species like yours for a very long time." She brought up another display. "These are tactical profiles of Calrec's military doctrine. We've had this information for 30 years, Commander. We got it from other species you conquered. We know how you fight. We know your ship designs, your weapon capabilities, your shield frequencies. We could defeat your entire military if we needed to." "Then why haven't you?" Zethrak demanded. "If you're so powerful, why not conquer us first?" "Because that's not who we are," Kate said firmly. "We learned something in our history that most species haven't. Power doesn't come from how much you can conquer. It comes from making sure nobody can conquer you. We don't want your worlds. We don't want to rule over other species. We just want to be left alone to live in peace." She stood up, her posture straight and formal. "But if you won't leave us in peace, we will make you regret it. Absolutely and completely. That's the message you need to take home, Commander. Humanity offers 2 paths, peace and trade, or total war. Choose peace, and we can be valuable allies. Choose war, and you'll end up like all those ships floating outside. Zethrak looked at his crew. They had heard everything. They had seen the evidence. Most of them looked shaken, their warrior pride broken by the reality of human capabilities. "What happens now?" Zethrak asked. "Now you have a choice," Kate said. "War Minister Velkoth is still connected to this channel. He's been listening. He can order you to fight, and you'll all die here. Or you can surrender, and we'll return you to your people with a message." Zethrak looked at his communication panel. The indicator showed that Velkoth's ship was indeed connected. The War Minister had heard everything and remained silent. Finally, Velkoth's voice crackled over the channel. "Zethrak, you will fight to the last ship. The Kalrex do not surrender." Zethrak looked at his crew again. Young officers who had trained their whole lives for glory in battle. Veterans who had families waiting at home. People who trusted him to make the right choice. He made his decision. "War Minister Velkoth, I respectfully refuse that order. I will not throw away the lives of my crew for pride." He turned to Kate. "We surrender. All ships. Power down weapons and shields." "Traitor!" Velkoth screamed over the channel. "You disgrace the entire Kalrex Empire." "Perhaps," Zethrak said quietly, "but I'll be a living traitor who can warn our people about the truth. That's worth more than dying as a fool who couldn't accept reality." Kate nodded with what looked like respect. "A wise choice, Commander. Stand by. We'll guide your ships to a processing facility." As human vessels moved to escort the Kalrex fleet, Zethrak realized that everything had changed. His career was over. His honor was destroyed in Kalrex eyes. But he had learned a terrible truth about the galaxy, and now he had to make sure his people learned it too, before it was too late. The prisoner facility on the planet's surface was nothing like what Zethrak expected. Instead of dark cells and torture chambers, he found himself in a clean room with a bed, desk, and even a window showing gardens outside. His crew were housed in similar quarters. They received 3 meals daily, medical care for their wounded, and were treated with basic dignity. It confused him. The Kalrex treated prisoners as slaves or killed them outright, but the humans seemed to follow different rules. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Chen, the facility administrator, explained during Zethrak's first meal. "We follow the interstellar conventions on treatment of prisoners. We didn't write them, but we follow them. You fought us, you lost, but you're still living beings deserving of basic rights." "Even after we tried to destroy your colony?" Zethrak asked. "Even then," Ryan said, "we're not interested in revenge. We're interested in peace. Treating you badly would just create more hatred and guarantee future conflicts." 3 days after their surrender, guards escorted Zethrak to a meeting room. A human woman in an admiral's uniform waited there. She was older than the officers he'd met before, perhaps 60 Earth years, with gray hair and eyes that had seen many things. "I'm Admiral Beth Carter, commander of the 7th Fleet," she said, gesturing for him to sit. "I wanted to talk with you before we make decisions about your future." Zethrak sat cautiously. "Are you here to interrogate me about military secrets?" "No," Beth said, surprising him. "I want to understand why you came here. What makes the Kalrex Empire believe conquest is acceptable? What drives your species to expand through force?" It was not what he expected. "We are warriors. We have always been warriors. For thousands of years, our people have measured greatness by territory controlled and enemies defeated. It's who we are." Beth nodded slowly. "Let me show you something." She activated a display screen. "This is Earth, our home planet, as it looked 1,000 years ago." The image showed a blue and green world, beautiful from space. Then the scene changed to surface views, cities burning, armies clashing, weapons that turned entire regions into radioactive wasteland. "We were warriors too," Beth said quietly. "We fought wars that killed hundreds of millions. We developed weapons that could destroy all life on our planet. We came within minutes of ending our entire species multiple times. She showed him more images. Concentration camps where humans murdered other humans by the millions. Cities reduced to rubble. Children starving in the ruins of civilization. We learned something through all that suffering, Beth continued. We learned that being strong doesn't mean being aggressive. Real strength is knowing when not to fight. It's building defenses so good that nobody dares attack you, then using that security to live in peace. But you still fight, Zethrak pointed out. You destroyed 3 of our ships. You maintain military forces. Yes, because we learned another lesson. Peace through weakness doesn't work. Other species will always exist who believe might makes right. So we had to become strong enough to defend ourselves absolutely while wise enough not to abuse that strength. She brought up more data. Before we revealed ourselves to the galaxy, we spent 50 years just watching. We sent stealth probes to hundreds of worlds. We observed the Calrex conquests. We saw the Vraxian slave raids. We watched the Skrell Empire crush revolts with biological weapons. We learned that the galaxy operates on the principle of predator and prey. And you decided to be predators? Zethrak asked. No, Beth said firmly. We decided to be neither. We chose a third option. Make it impossible for anyone to prey on us. We settled in this region of space specifically because we could control all the approaches. We built defenses in layers. We prepared for every possible threat. We made our territory into a place where predators come to die. She leaned forward. That's why we let hostile forces enter our space, Commander. Every species that attacks us teaches the galaxy a lesson. The Vraxians learned that humans don't make good slaves. The Korthans learned that bombing our stations brings overwhelming retaliation. Now the Calrex are learning that our defenses can't be broken by conventional assault. You're training the galaxy to fear you, Zethrak said. We're training the galaxy to leave us alone, Beth corrected. There's a difference. We don't want fear for its own sake. We want peace. But we learned that some species only respect strength, so we show them strength. We make the cost of attacking humans so high that even the most aggressive species think twice. She switched the display to show star charts. We could have built an empire. Our technology and tactics would let us conquer our neighbors easily, but we chose not to. We stay in our territory. We defend our borders. We trade peacefully with anyone willing to treat us fairly. That's the truth about humanity, Commander. We're not the monsters your propaganda will claim. We're just people who refuse to be victims. Zethrak processed this information. What happens to us now? That depends on your people, Beth said. We're willing to return you and your crews to Calrex space, but you have to carry a message to your war council. Either accept permanent peace and respect our borders, or face total war. What does total war with humans mean? Zethrak asked, though he suspected he knew. It means we don't invade Calrex space, Beth explained. We don't need to. Instead, we make it impossible for any Calrex ship to leave your territory safely. We establish blockades at every jump point. We destroy any military vessel that tries to pass. We cut you off from the galaxy completely. Your empire would suffocate, isolated and alone, while the rest of the galaxy trades and prospers. That's worse than invasion, Zethrak realized. Yes, because it requires much less effort from us and causes much more damage to you. We don't want to do it, Commander. We'd rather have peace. We'd rather trade with the Calrex, share technology, learn from each other. But we will do what's necessary to protect our people. Over the following days, Zethrak met with other human officers and civilians. He toured human cities and saw how they lived. They were not so different from Calrex in many ways. They had families they loved. They worked hard to build better lives. They enjoyed art and music and the company of friends. The difference was in how they thought about strength. The Calrex believed strength came from dominating others. Humans believed strength came from protecting what you loved. When the time came for Zethrak to leave, Beth met with him one final time. Your career is over, she said honestly. Your people will call you a coward and a traitor. Velkoth will probably try to have you executed. I know, Zethrak said, but you'll be carrying the truth. And truth is more powerful than propaganda in the long run. Some in your empire will listen. Some will understand. Maybe enough to prevent a war that would destroy both our peoples. Zethrak looked at this human admiral who had treated him with more respect than his own leaders showed him. I will tell them everything I've learned here. I will warn them about human capabilities. Whether they listen or not, that's beyond my control. That's all we can ask, Beth said. Good luck, Commander. I hope the next time we meet, it's as allies rather than enemies. As Zethrak boarded the shuttle that would take him home, he knew his life would never be the same. He had crossed into human space thinking he was a conqueror. He was leaving as a messenger, carrying a warning that might save his empire or condemn him to death. The human ship messenger arrived at the Calrex border exactly as promised. Captain Dan Foster, who commanded the vessel, had been quiet during most of the journey. On the final day, he invited Zethrak to the bridge. I wanted you to see this, Dan said, gesturing to the view screen showing the border region. This is the last time you'll see human space from this side. I hope it's also the last time any Calrex warship crosses that line with hostile intent. You lost someone, Zethrak said, noticing the old pain in Dan's eyes. My sister. Pirates raided the freighter she worked on 8 years ago. She was a cargo specialist, just doing her job, and they killed her along with 37 others. Dan turned to face him. That's why we're so serious about defending our people, Commander. Every human out here has someone they love. Every attack on us is personal. I understand now, Zethrak said quietly. I just hope my people will understand too. The messenger released Zethrak and his crew at the border, along with detailed records, video footage of the battles, interviews, technical data, and a formal message from Admiral Carter. The message was clear: choose peace or face consequences. But the message also included an offer: peaceful trade, diplomatic relations, and mutual defense agreements if the Calrex wanted them. The humans were offering a hand in friendship even after being attacked. The journey home took 5 days. During that time, Zethrak prepared his report and prepared himself for what would come. When they finally arrived at the Calrex homeworld, security forces arrested him immediately. The War Council convened in emergency session. Velkoth, still furious about the surrender, called for Zethrak's execution. But Trade Minister Cross, who had always been more cautious, demanded that the council review the human records first. For 2 days, the council watched the footage and read the reports. They saw the battle. They saw the graveyard of ships. They heard the human explanations and warnings. The council chamber became divided. This is propaganda, Velkoth shouted, designed to make us afraid. The humans are primitives who got lucky. We send a real fleet, 200 ships, and we crush them. Or we trade with them, Cross argued. The reports show they're willing to share technology, establish commerce, exchange knowledge. We could gain more through peace than we'd ever gain through war. The debate raged for days. Finally, the council voted. Velkoth's faction won by a narrow margin. They would launch a massive assault to restore Calrex honor. Zethrak was spared execution but stripped of rank and placed under house arrest. 3 months later, Velkoth assembled a fleet of 200 warships. Every major vessel the Calrex Empire could spare joined the formation. They carried the Empire's best warriors, its most powerful weapons, its proudest commanders. We will show the humans what true military might looks like, Velkoth declared to his fleet. We will avenge our fallen and prove that the Calrex bow to no one. The fleet crossed into human space in a massive formation, weapons ready, shields at maximum. They expected a fight. They expected the humans to scramble their defenses and prepare for the largest battle in this region of space. Instead, they found 20 human ships waiting for them. Only 20? Velkoth's second-in-command said with disbelief. "They mock us with such a small force?" "It's a trap," one of the veteran officers warned. "Remember the reports." "Silence!" Velkoth commanded. "All ships advance and destroy them!" The Calrex fleet moved forward. The human ships didn't run. They didn't even retreat. Instead, they each launched hundreds of small objects that scattered across space. "What are those?" someone asked. The answer came seconds later. The objects were drones, thousands of them, each carrying a single kinetic kill vehicle. They moved with the same impossible agility as the human ships, guided by artificial intelligence that calculated trajectories faster than any biological mind could process. The drones swarmed through the Calrex fleet like insects. Point defense systems tried to shoot them down but couldn't keep up with the numbers. The drones were too small, too fast, too numerous. What followed wasn't a battle. It was extermination. Velkoth's flagship exploded in the first 5 minutes, torn apart by dozens of impacts. Ship after ship died as the drones found their targets. The Calrex tried to fight back, tried to retreat, tried to surrender. Nothing worked. The swarm was relentless. In less than 1 hour, 200 Calrex warships became debris. Not a single human ship took damage. The news reached the Calrex homeworld through automated beacons. The entire War Council sat in stunned silence as they watched footage from the few escape pods that had been recovered. Trade Minister Cross stood slowly. "The War Council is dissolved. By emergency powers, I'm assuming control of the government. Our first action will be to send a message to the humans requesting immediate peace negotiations." Nobody argued. Nobody had the strength left to argue. Zethrak was released from house arrest and appointed as the chief negotiator. He returned to human space, but this time aboard a diplomatic vessel flying white flags. Admiral Beth Carter met him again, this time in a conference room rather than a prison. "Your people learned the lesson the hard way," she said without satisfaction. "We didn't want this. We offered peace first." "I know," Zethrak said, "and now my people know too. We're ready to discuss terms." The negotiations took months, but eventually a treaty was signed. The Calrex Empire agreed to complete demilitarization of the border region, reparations for the attempted invasions, and formal recognition of human sovereignty. In exchange, humans offered trade agreements and a promise not to pursue further retaliation. 5 years passed. Zethrak, now Ambassador Zethrak, stood on a human space station looking out at the stars. A young Calrex officer, recently assigned to the embassy, approached him nervously. "Ambassador, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Why do the humans allow us here after what we did? Why do they trade with us and work with us? We tried to destroy them." Zethrak smiled slightly. It was a question he'd asked himself many times. "Because they understand something we didn't. The strongest position isn't dominating others. It's making others understand that dominating you is impossible. We crossed into human space thinking we were predators. We learned we were prey. But the humans showed us we could be something better. Partners." He pointed to the view screen where a joint patrol of human and Calrex ships moved together through space, protecting the border they had once fought over. "We learned the hard way that the galaxy has room for both warriors and peacemakers. The humans are both. They'll destroy any threat to their people without hesitation, but they'll also extend friendship to former enemies, if those enemies are willing to change." The young officer nodded slowly, processing this. "So they won by being strong enough to defeat us, but wise enough to make peace." "Exactly. That's why no ship ever returned from human space during conflicts. But now, ships cross that border every day in peace. The humans taught us that there's more honor in building friendships than in collecting conquests." Ambassador Zethrak turned back to the viewport. In the distance, the memorial to the fallen still floated in space, a permanent reminder of the cost of aggression. But next to it, A new structure was being built, a trade station where humans and Calrex would work together. The title of his story had been written in blood and wreckage. They crossed into human space and realized why no ship ever returned. But now, a new chapter was beginning, one where ships returned carrying not weapons but goods, not soldiers but diplomats, not threats but hopes for a better future. The humans had won their war not just with weapons, but with the wisdom to turn enemies into allies. And that, Zethrak realized, was the strongest victory of all.